Toron, now Tibnin or Tebnine in southern Lebanon, was a major Crusader castle, built in the Lebanon mountains on the road from Tyre to Damascus. It was the center of the Lordship of Toron, a seigneury within the Kingdom of Jerusalem, actually a rear-vassalage of the Principality of Galilee. The castle was built by Hugh of Saint Omer, Prince of Galilee, in 1106 AD to assist in capturing Tyre. After Hugh's death, the surroundings of Tibnin were raided by al-Mulk, who killed the populace and made off with booty. Tibnin was made an independent seigneury, given to Humphrey I before 1109. After Humphrey I of Toron, the castle and lordship of Toron successively passed to his descendants Humphrey II and Humphrey IV. Banyas, which had been given to Baldwin II by the assassins in 1128, was inherited by Toron in approximately 1148 when Humphrey II married the daughter of Rainier Bruce, Lord of Banyas and Asabebi. Humphrey II sold parts of Banyas and Chastelneuf to the Knights Hospitaller in 1157. Banyas was merged with Toron until it fell to Anwar ad-Din Zangi on the 18th of November 1164, and when it was recovered it became part of the seigneury of Jocelyn III of Edessa. Humphrey IV was also Prince of Ultraje-Ordain. Toron remained in Crusader possession until 1187 when it fell to the forces of Saladin after the Battle of Hattin, when Saladin all but destroyed the Crusader states. 10 years later, in November 1197, Toron was besieged by the German contingent of the Crusade of 1197 and would have fallen, but the Muslim garrison by the tribesmen of El Cid and Far was held out until relief arrived from Egypt. In 1219 Sultan al-Muasim secretly had the defences of Toron as well as those of Jerusalem and the castles of Safed and Banyas dismantled. This was done because the Sultan foresaw the necessity of exchanging them for the more crucial defences at Damietta on the Nile Delta, which had been captured by the forces of the Fifth Crusade who were now threatening Cairo. Additionally, al-Muasim was not prepared to give strong defendable cities to the Crusaders if he could avoid it. Although the exchange proved unnecessary, the geographical position of the sites remained important for the Crusaders who were interested in recovering Jerusalem from Muslim control. Indeed, despite the destruction, Toron, Safed and Banyas were recovered through treaty in 1229, just 2 years after al-Muasim's death on November 11, 1227, by Frederick II from Sultan al-Kamil. As Toron was sold in 1220 to the Teutonic Knights together with the territories called the Seigneury de Jocelyn, it came to a dispute between them and Alice of Armenia, the niece of Humphrey IV and heiress of the Lordship of Toron. Alice successfully claimed her rights before the High Court and Frederick II assigned the lordship to her. In 1239, when the treaty ended, Toron fell back to the Ayyubids. 2 years later, in 1241, it was restored to the Crusaders due to a treaty between Richard of Cornwall and Sultan Saleh from Egypt. In 1244, the castles held out against the Khwarezmian army and accomplished their objective of disrupting the Muslim attack on Jerusalem. Nonetheless, Jerusalem eventually fell to the overwhelming number of the Khwarezmian and the primary mission of the castles became obsolete. However, Toron tenuously remained in Crusader hands and was periodically under siege by the Mamluks until the Jihad of Baybars further isolated it. Following a brief siege, Baybars, in a rare display of mercy, allowed the small Crusader contingent to evacuate in exchange for surrender, which they accepted. The lords of Toron tended to be very influential in the kingdom. Humphrey II was Constable of Jerusalem. Humphrey IV was married to Isabella, King Amalric I's daughter. It was also one of the few to have a straight hereditary succession in the male line, at least for a few generations. The lords of Toron were also connected to the lords lordship of Ultrage ordained by the marriage of Humphrey III and the maternal inheritance of Humphrey IV. Toron was later merged with the royal domain of Tyre, which went to a branch of Antioch, then their heirs from Montfort. Lords of Toron: Hugh of Falkenberg, Humphrey I of Toron, Humphrey II of Toron, Humphrey IV of Toron. Royal domain: Humphrey IV occupied by Muslims until 1229 and the title not used. Alices of Armenia, granddaughter of Humphrey III. Maria of Antioch, Armenia, granddaughter of Alice and great-granddaughter of Isabella of Armenia, daughter of Humphrey III, occupied by Muslims from 1239 until 1241. Philip of Montfort, John of Montfort, Lord of Tyre. It was lost again in 1266. Humphrey of Montfort, Lord of Beirut, Lord of Tyre. Amaury of Montfort, Rupin of Montfort, Lord of Beirut. Humphrey of Montfort, Constable of Cyprus, titular Lord of Beirut. Esquiva of Montfort, wife of Peter I of Cyprus, titular Lord of Beirut. Toron had two vassals of its own, the Lordship of Chastelneuf and the Lordship of Maron. Chastelneuf was built by Hugh of Falkenberg around 1105 but was later given to the Hospitallers, until it fell to Anwar ad-Din in 1167. Maron was given in 1229 to the Teutonic Knights in exchange for the claims on Toron. The castle of Toron occupies a steep hill, in fact a Bronze Age tell, north to the village of Tibnin, at a height of 725 meters above sea level. It is oval in shape with its outline following the contours of the tell. It once had 12 rectangular towers, with one of them to the south having been the donjon. The castle, razed in 1266 by the Mamluks, was rebuilt 500 years later in the mid-18th century by a local Shiite sheikh during his struggle against the Ottoman rule. He used the ruins of the medieval walls as a basis for his rebuilding campaign, and thus the castle today mainly appears as an Ottoman construction.